Uh, there we go. Sorry, just let me get set up here. Perfect. All right. So, yeah, as Steve said, I'm Llewellyn Falco. I'm a technical coach. I see a lot of familiar faces here. So most of you have probably seen a talk by me before, and like I tend to have very technical talks. This is not going to be one of those talks. This is going to be much more like theoretical and philosophy, and specifically, I want to look at sort of a system thinking smell that I see all the time, and I want to talk about that. So yeah, shared pain versus split pain. As always, talk resources here. There's not a lot of resources for this talk, so mainly it's just the slides. I'll also put that link in the chat. So because QR codes work less good uh, in the virtual world, ironically. All right, so let's talk about systems thinking. Systems thinking is basically a philosophy where you look at the world as a video game, and everyone else in the video game is a non-player character, an NPC. Right? Like they are these things. They have rules that they follow, and therefore, when something goes wrong, it's not like the NPC did it wrong, right? Like it's that like the NPC is just following the rules of the game. And if you want different results, it's not about blaming people, but it's about crafting a system where you get the people to do what they want, right? Like these reactions are sort of byproducts of these overall constraints. This is from the UX world, but I feel like this summarizes this really thing. A lot of times we design behavior, but the behavior that actually emerges is not at all what we designed. And the more you can think of this as like a natural consequence and not just, oh, those lazy kids want to like cut the corner, right? Like this is a consequence of the way you design this system. Very similar to this is an economics concept called the Cobra effect. This is a very well-known economics concept, but the story comes from India, where there was a prince who didn't like cobras, and the prince was rich. And so, sort of used to getting what he wanted. And so he said, oh, you know what? I don't like these snakes. Let's pay people to kill the snakes. Then there will be no more snakes. So he started putting a bounty. Bring in a dead cobra, you get some rubies. And people like started killing cobras because they wanted the money. But then very quickly, people started to realize it is much easier to farm cobras than it is to hunt cobras. So they started farming cobras. And then they got lots of dead cobras, and then the prince started to get a lot less rich. So the prince was like, screw this, I'm going home, and just canceled the bounty. And then people were like, what am I going to do with all these snakes? So they just turned them loose. And the city ended up being overrun by cobras because of a policy designed to eliminate them. And very often this happens. I actually learned about the Cobra effect from the Freakonomics author, right? Who's a Nobel Prize winning economist. And he tells the story of trying to teach his daughter, trying to potty train his daughter, right? And he's like, oh, this will be easy. She loves M&Ms. Every time she goes to potty, I'll give her, a couple M&Ms. And he's like, and in 3 days, like my 3-year-old would go in, like do like 3 drops of pee, come out, get M&Ms, and then like go back in and do like another 3. Like it's like I'm an Nobel Prize winning economist, and my 3-year-old outsmarted me in 3 days. Like that's how hard this stuff is. But I want to ask like a sort of slightly different question, which is this is hard for the people who study this. Most of the people who are in charge of creating the systems that we exist in, do they even are they even aware of systems thinking? And I want to be very clear because I am talking to a room of software crafters And so I don't think you are the ones who are responsible for designing the systems. But I very much think that in like 4 to 5 years, you will be, right? There's a tendency for us to move up into positions of more power, more management. And I want the purpose of this talk is not just to complain or be cathartic with you. It's hopefully this will like plant a seed that in a few years' time you will remember, so that when you are in a position where you are creating systems, you can be much more cognizant of, am I getting the results that I want based on the rules that I'm setting up? And if not, how do I change them? And I want to bring in just what I think is one of the more basic smells that I see all over the place. And that smell is shared pain versus split pain. I'm going to tell you a lot of stories about this, but I want to start by just defining the general idea of what it is we're talking about. So let's imagine that I'm in bed, and I'm in bed because I've hurt my knee. I'm in bed because I do not want to walk around. Walking around is painful. It causes me pain. I want to minimize my pain. And so I'm not getting out of bed. However, while my knee hurts, I also have to go to the bathroom. Now, walking to the bathroom is going to cause me pain. But I am aware that there will be more pain if I stay in bed. And so, like everyone else, I will get up and I will go to the bathroom even though it hurts. But let's say that there's two of us in the room, right? And you have to go to the bathroom, but I have to carry you there. You're out of luck. That is how split pain works. I am not going to endure my own pain just because it causes you less pain. The moment this becomes two different things, you might think of like, hey, there's still the system of the household, but that's not how that works. This is what split pain is. And it universally leads to suboptimal results for the whole. So let's start. I'll take you through 6 stories here, 6 or 7 stories, somewhere like that. And then we'll do the group exercise. So I want to start with like a really abstract story, right? Not something that like is directly personal to me, but something that like we just sort of seen in the industry, right? Which is DevOps. So if you go back in time, right, we used to have dev and we had ops. And dev was the people who would write the code and also write the bugs. And then ops was the part of the company that was responsible for like making sure the website was still up and working, right? They were the ones who actually had to deal with the bugs that we would write. And this caused a lot of problems. And so in 2012, Yahoo sort of started combining these two things, and we started to see this thing called dev plus ops, where dev and ops are on the same team. Meaning if you wrote the bug, you were also the one who had to like answer the pager in the middle of the night. And as soon as this pain became shared, some really amazing things started to happen, right? This is where we started to get like continuous deployment, where we got like 40, 50 deploys a day. Like really neat stuff started to occur as soon as it was our pain. And we just called it DevOps for short, right? Dev plus ops. It made sense. And it was really good. So other companies start to use it, right? And like, oh, this DevOps thing is amazing, but there's some skills you had to learn to like handle DevOps, and not everyone wanted to learn those skills. So they're like, oh, we need a DevOps team. And right again, we now have split pain again. And in places where we see dev teams and DevOps teams, we tend to see the exact same problems resurfacing that we saw before. It's not what you call it. It's whether or not the pain is shared. If something goes wrong, if it's my pain, am I also the one who like feels it and is responsible for solving it. All right, let's go to a more personal story. So here I am out in Michigan. I'm working for a company, like a fairly large company out in Flint, and they had an entire floor of teams of programmers. This is pre-pandemic days, back when we used to meet in person. It was fantastic. And so I would get together and I do my regular coaching. And my style of coaching is to sit with the team for 2 weeks at a time for 2 hours a day, and we would do mob programming. Right? And so we have our ensemble. And one of the neat things about ensembles is, it's everybody sort of, what are these people looking at? Right? Oh, a whole bunch of people are staring at a screen. It must be something interesting there, right? They seem to be laughing and having fun at work. What's going on? And so other people would stop by, like other people on the floor. And in one of my sessions there, the boss of the entire floor stopped by. And like I did with everyone else, I sort of said, hey, here's what we're doing. If you're interested, you can sit down and join. He was not up for sitting down and join, but he wanted to sit and watch. And so I sort of pulled up a chair next to him and would sort of just chat to him as the rest of the team was going through. And he made this comment. He's like, they're waiting a lot. Why are they just sitting around waiting? And I was like, oh yeah, your compile times are really long, right? And he's like, how much of their week are they waiting? And so I like sort of pull out just a piece of paper, and I start doing some calculations. And I was like, it's probably costing you about $100,000 for a year for this team to wait on this compilation. And I'm like, for the floor, it's probably costing you about $2 million. And he was like, how come nobody's ever told me this? And I was like, oh no, they have. That's why, like, for the last 2 years, they've been trying to get off of Ant and into Maven. Right. And he's like, oh, right. And when I came back, right, because I would work with the team for 2 weeks and then go away for 2 to 4 weeks and come back again. When I came back, they were on Maven. Right. Because that pain was now something that he experienced. Before, they'd be like, oh, the Ant kind of sucks. I want to be on Maven. And he'd be like, how does that help me? Right. He wasn't feeling the pain. Now, some people would say, like, that's just talking his language, right? But I think the key element of talking someone's language is that they can actually feel your pain, right? I'm not particularly good at talking other people's languages, but I am good at shared pain. Everyone has their skill sets. The next story I want to tell you is actually from a company out in Boca, just north of Miami. Also doing technical coaching with them. All these stories are going to be technical coaching. And again, in person. And this is a company I got to spend a lot of time with. And I would work on the third floor with the Java developers. And I got to work there for many, many months. And I have this policy that I could do in person. I haven't actually, here I am like 3 years after a pandemic, and I still can't figure out how to do lunches remotely. But in person, if you ever have me in person, I will take you to lunch. Like, that is a key part of my coaching work. And so through those lunches, I got a chance not just to work with the devs, but to work with the testers. Right? Now, the testers were not on the third floor. The testers were on the fourth floor. Same building, just up a flight of stairs. You would be surprised at the amount of distance a flight of stairs is in a company, right? I will tell you stories later across the globe, and it is less distance than these stairs were. Right? And so I'm sitting with the team, and one of the first things I do with the team is we often go like, hey, what are the stories in your backlog? Let's pick one to work on together. And we got to this one story, and there was a lot of like, oh, no, let's not do that one. Right. And to a coach, that resistance is a sign of opportunity. So I'm like, oh, let's take a look at that one. Right? And I was like, why don't you want to do this one? And they're like, oh, that's Juan. Juan, Juan's in charge of that one. And I'm like, I knew Juan. Juan was downstairs. I like Juan. Juan was great. And I'm like, well, what's wrong? What's wrong with Juan? And they're like, every time we submit bugs to him, he just closes them and says, can't reproduce. And that is exactly what had happened with this bug. And so one of the first things I did is I went down the stairs, said, hey, Juan, come with me. And I brought Juan up the stairs. And he sort of walks in kind of reluctantly because like, what is Llewellyn walking me into? And to be fair, like also the testers were sort of like, why are you bringing him up here? Um, and I'm like, show Juan the bug, and they pop it up in Jira, and Juan's like, oh yeah, that's not a real bug. And so I'm like, can you reproduce it here for him? And so they pull up their machine and they start doing it, and it does, of course, reproduce, right? Like neither of the people here are lying. And the moment that it reproduced, Juan was like, open up your settings, show me what you have, right? Like immediately when he felt the pain, it went to just puzzle solving. And Juan was an excellent engineer. He's really good at diagnosing and solving problems, right? He just didn't feel the pain. The moment that he was there, he's good at solving pain. Most people are remarkably good at solving their own pain, right? Like that's something that we work on. And so, yeah, that was it. Bring the dev and the testers together. Make that pain shared. And then the pain starts to go away. There was a similar story also from the same company, same teams. Well, actually different teams, but same company out in Boca. And as I mentioned, I finally got to work with the testing team. I got to work with them multiple times. And in one of the later sessions, I got to work with them. So I'm up again on the fourth floor. They showed me these videos. So what it was is they were running these Selenium tests and they had wired it up so that as Selenium is sort of like robot hitting the things on the site, a video is being created. And then when they would submit a bug from Selenium, you would get these videos. And I was like, that's awesome. Like, it's really nice to have a video of the bug being reproduced. I'm like, did you just come up with this? And they're like, no, we've had this for a year. And that was weird to me because I'd been there for more than a year at this point, and I had never seen these videos on the third floor. But I sort of file it away. It's like, hey, this is this cool thing. So the next time that I'm working with the devs downstairs, I was like, we should use these videos. And so I used the normal techniques that I normally use, right? Which is like I went in, we had a bug, and I went upstairs, got the testers, and brought them down to work on the bug with us and the dev team, right? So the first time I brought the dev upstairs, this time I brought testers downstairs. But either way, like we're together. And I said, right, show them the video. And they went to look at the video and they could not see the video. Now, why? Why couldn't they see the video? Well, the answer is this. The devs were paid more than the testers, right? The average salary of the developer was higher than the average salary of the tester. There's a lot of reasons for that. I'm just stating as it was. But a side effect of the fact that the devs were paid more than the testers is that the devs all had laptops, but the testers all had desktops. Not a big deal, except for the laptops all communicated to the internal Ethernet through wireless. And the desktops all communicated to the wireless through a wire. And the IT had set up the whole system so that the wire and the wireless, of course, could see everything on the internet going out, but they only could talk to each other through two ports, right? So they firewalled everything else out. So you're either HTTP or HTTPS. And of course, they had served these off of just a regular Catalina server, but they put it on the LEAP port, right? And you couldn't see anything on 1337 because you only could see things on 443. So for a year, they had been creating a very helpful thing to relieve pain on the third floor that not a single person on the third floor used. And they never knew about it because it wasn't their pain. They never felt it go away. It was really easy to fix too. You just opened up the Catalina config file and changed it to 443, and then all of a sudden you could see all the videos that they've been producing for a year. Again, like what we think happens when we design these systems and what actually happens is rarely like in agreement, right? If you are not there to actually experience it, you won't even realize that they're not in alignment. All right, another story. So this story comes from a company that I was working with in the Czech Republic. There's sort of a couple key players here, right? So the first is the company itself. The whole team is located in Pilsen, and for the first month, actually, I flew out to Czech Republic and stayed there and worked with the team. But there's a long contract. So after the first month, I flew home to Los Alamos, and I would just work with that team remotely. So we got used to mob programming together remotely. And then one of the sessions I worked with them, they wanted to work on some bugs that they had. When we were going through their backlog, they had a lot of bugs with this third-party library that was actually created, I mean, in theory by a company, but really it was just a solo developer out in Sydney. Right. Now, that solo developer is Chris, right? And so Chris would create this code in C++. We would actually consume it in C#, right? In our client code, and very often we would have these bugs and we would try to like figure out what the bug is and figure out, can we solve it on our side? And if we couldn't solve it on our side, can we, sort of give it to Chris enough to like sort of fix it? But the problem is like under no circumstances is Chris allowed to see our code. Like huge breaking of NDAs are involved in that, right? And Chris created code that worked directly with our competitors as well, right? There's like no way are we allowed to show Chris this code. So one of the very first things I did was I created a unit test package that just tested Chris's code, right? And the nice thing about this is that we could show this to Chris. So here we are, just focused on writing, like unit testing his third-party code. And a result of that is we'd come up and say, hey, we can reproduce this bug now, and we can tell Chris that we reproduced it and show him the code that reproduces it. And that means we send him an email. And so sort of on the first or second day, we send him an email, and he was great. And he fixed the code and he sends us a thing. And so we write some more stuff and we send him a second email. And then he like fixed it. And then we send him a third email the next day, and he fixed it. And then we send him a fourth email. At this point, there's no shared pain, but we have definitely increased his pain, right? Like his inbox is filling up. So at that point, remember, I'm in the United States. I'm in New Mexico, and they are in Pilsen in the Czech Republic. So really not a problem to include Chris in Sydney, right? Like it's less distance than those stupid stairs in Florida, right? It's just him joining the Teams call. And so we asked him like, hey, we're getting together. Would you like to join our call? And he was like, yeah, that would be great. So now we have not just brought like in Florida, I brought people from the same company up a set of stairs so we could work together. Here I've got people on the other side of the globe in different companies sitting together and working together. So we've taken Chris and we've moved him over here. And now his pain is our pain, or our pain is his pain. And that meant lots of things, right? Obviously, like as we'd get the unit test in, like it was quicker to write the unit test. He could see the places where we had written lots of little skeleton like convenience functions to make his API easier to use. And he liked those. It solved his pains too. So like those started showing up in his code. But the best part is the pieces of his system that pissed Chris off, that stuff got fixed immediately and we never had to talk about it. He had error messages that confused him. Those error messages were fixed to me like the next day, right? Anything that pissed him off about his own system, that got fixed. The system had been out for over a decade, but he had never gotten to feel the pain of using it. That's where shared pain is. And it is unbelievably valuable. All right, I got one more story to tell. This is from a client here in America. They had an interesting situation, right? They cared about security, which I think is a good thing, right? And so while I was there was a situation where they had done a bug bounty. And the bug bounty sort of said, hey, hackers not in our company, attack us. And if you find a bug and report it to us, we will give you money so we can patch those bugs. They had made the very interesting choice to take that money from the budget of the teams it came from. That is an odd choice, but we'll put that to the side for the moment. And so far, like a fair amount of money had come out of the company due to this program, right? Which, is great. Like people are caring about security and starting to do stuff about it. And one of these like came to the team I was working with. And in fixing that one, we started to look at other places and we found some other bugs. And so in specific, we found and fixed a security bug before a hacker had reported it, which is great, right? But the thing is, until that fix is in production, a hacker can still discover it and still claim the bounty. And so the question is sort of, how long should we wait to release this fix? Maybe a slightly different way of phrasing that question is, how many days should we give the hackers to claim this bounty before we release the fix? And you're probably saying, that's a stupid question, Llewellyn. Why would you give the hackers any days, right? And I understand what you're saying, but this is not the answer to the question. The answer to the question was usually no more than 2 to 3 days. The much more specific answer to that question was not until release management process gave an okay to release the code. So why would a company give 2 to 3 days to claim tens of thousands of dollars of bounty on something they've already known about and fixed? Why would they do this? And the answer is there are 2 teams. There's the dev team and there's the code freeze team. And both teams are trying to do their best for their job. There were layoffs at this company. People were genuinely concerned about losing their job. Right? So both teams need to do their best. Now, the dev team got penalized if security bugs were discovered. They got penalized if a derivative bug was developed. So it's like if you were like, oh, the side window is open, let's check around back and see if the back window is open. If that was open as well, you got 2 bounties, right? And they got penalized if the bugs took a long time to fix, right? There's like a different way the bounty worked if it got fixed within a certain period of time. Their best strategy, the way to keep their jobs, was to fix those bugs fast and release them. That is what they wanted to do. But to release it, you also had to involve the code freeze team. Now, they did not get penalized if a security bug was found. Right? They did not get penalized if a derivative bug was found. They did not get penalized if the bugs took a long time to fix. They got fired if they allowed new bugs to go into production. So if you changed this bug and broke something else, and they didn't realize it, That's where they got fired. And so their best strategy is to be as conservative as possible. If they could get away with it, they would never release anything. They they would get fired for that as well, but like they want to be as conservative as possible. And this is again not bad people. These are people who are trying to do the best of the job they are given, right? This is if it was my job on the line, I would probably be doing the same thing. And so when you compare these two things and say who wins, the code freeze team wins. They're the gatekeeper. And that's why we gave a couple extra days to let our bugs be claimed on a bounty, even though we knew about them and had fixed them. And a really interesting question is, what is the best thing for the company? Right? Because neither the code-free team or the dev team put together the system that said this is how it needs to work. There is a higher up person who is feeling none of this pain, who put that together, hoping, just like the prince, that it would reduce the number of bugs in their city. Let's bring it back to this question of do the people who create the systems study systems thinking? I do not believe they do, but I am a technical coach. I am called into systems that are not working great. So my experience, my results are definitely skewed, right? Just going again to this whole concept. If you have a single system, and sometimes this is a single team, right? But again, the more the people are separate, the more they're individual, the less shared pain there actually is, right? This is one of, again, just the huge advantages of pairing and mobbing. But the idea here is, does the person who creates the pain and the person who solves the pain, are they in the same team? Ideally, are they the same people? As long as they're in the same team, we're okay. If they are not, we're in trouble. But what I really, really like is when somebody feels the pain, the whole team feels the pain, right? Like if my finger hurts, Llewellyn hurts. If my toe hurts, Llewellyn hurts, right? It doesn't matter which part of my body hurts, the whole system is in pain, right? That is where the pain gets fixed the most. So it's best if something goes wrong on your team, the whole team feels the pain. If something your team is responsible goes wrong, your whole team feels the pain, whether it's on your team or not. Right? That is the best way to solve shared pain. Not just both people feel it, everyone feels it. All right, let's do one last story. I'm going to use a technique called 2 for all. I'm going to do a slight variation on that. But what I want to do is find your stories. So we're going to do this in a very time box manner, in a very specific way. First, I'm going to bring you to a mural board. Nothing to do on that mural board at the moment. Nonetheless, let's start that up. So I'm going to go to your chat. Here we go. So put that in the chat. And then I want everybody just to think of a story from your own experience of shared pain. Or sorry, not shared pain. I want you to think of a story of split pain from your own experience. And I'm just going to give you like 3 minutes to do that. We're just going to do it sort of in silence. Yeah, here, I'll bring everyone to me. Whoosh. All right, and let me start the timer. So take these 3 minutes. You can, a couple different ways of doing this that work pretty good. Obviously, if it's something that happened to you very recently, that will pop to your mind. We just crossed the calendar year, so you might just want to go back and say, hey, what have I been doing for 2023? Is there something that pops my mind there? Another way to do this is take a list at like your last 2 or 3 jobs and say, oh, did something show up at my last employer or the employer before then? A lot of times these will stick in your mind, but I want you to like sort of put together the story, give it a title in your head, sort of like a easy way to refer to whatever your experience is, but also try to like flesh out the experience in your head. All right, 10 seconds left. Hopefully everyone has got a story. Great. Now, some of you are already putting these on post-it notes, which is great. You're going to need to make them much smaller, but that's okay. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put you in pairs in breakout rooms, right? I'm going to assign them just randomly for this first round. And so you'll just be with whoever you're sort of with. And what I want you to do is first person, and you can decide who's first, however you want, tell your story to the other person. Then second person, tell your story. I'm going to give you 2.5 minutes to do each of those storytelling, so fairly quick. To the other person, and then in the last minute, I want you to decide which of those two stories you're going to take with you to the next round. Right. So we're going to take all of your stories and filter them by half. And again, so like if you get assigned to room one, you will come here to room one. You'll put both of your post-it notes here, and then you'll move whichever one you decide is the better one to the front. And then I'm going to combine you in half again and a half again. And then we finally will share the stories. All right, breakout rooms coming. Okay, so recreate. We've got 48 people and half of that is 24. Look at me, good at math. Except for I won't be in the breakout room, so we'll do 23. Automatically, and let's do it. Open all rooms. All right, go to your room. I'm gonna set the timer for 6 minutes and we'll see you then. Yeah.
Actually don't see a room that I've been assigned to. I'm going to
Well,
go into room 23 with Austin.
that sounds good. Pick one where it's missing people.
Yep.
Hello. Oh, I can't hear you. Give me 1 second. Are you
No,
muted?
I was
Oh, okay.
muted. I was,
Okay, cool.
yeah. How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Um, so I forget how much time we have for this, but we should probably dive in. Do you want to start or do you want me to start?
I've got one if you
Sure.
want. So I was trying to think a little bit out of the box, and a place where I think pain is often very shared, but somehow it ends up being kind of split is when you have a bunch of roommates and you have to do chores. Um,
Yep.
and I think the strategy is often to try to split it up. But it's just like everybody has different pain thresholds for like cleanliness and things like that,
Yep.
and it's
Yep.
very
Uh-huh.
difficult to share pain.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, everyone has their, I'm going to say it this way, their clean kink, right?
yeah, sure.
What they like to do, and then also what drives them crazy, batshit crazy, bad,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So yeah, I like that one. I like that one. I I was trying to think of something, and for me, I he brought up past employer, and one of the things on the team that I was working with is the way we were doing work was very dynamic and very organic. Yeah. And you couldn't tell what work was in progress or what work was to do in progress or done.
Oh,
But everyone knew what they were working on and what they needed where they needed to go.
mhm.
But it was a nightmare to try and figure out holistically where things were.
Okay.
And so some of that was sharing the pain of, the product side saying, we don't know what's going on versus the developers going, well, I know exactly what I'm working on. And so sharing that pain with the developers of there's a little bit of organization that can happen that can improve communication and visibility. And by sharing the pain, it's how many more meetings would you like to have to make that work visible versus if we organize things, we have fewer meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've definitely been in where they have things get organized and we just have more meetings. Like,
Right.
but
So,
yeah.
but that's where the developers need to ensure, or the folks that are now feeling the pain need to ensure that the good side happens as well too.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, okay, since we're figuring out ways to do it, then let's not have those meetings now that we've made it more visible. Yeah. Which one do I want to move forward with? I'm good with either one. I like the chore example. That one's pretty good.
Okay. I'm good with either too.
Uh,
This is
Since I'm the one of the co-hosts, I will let you pick one.
okay. I mean I like mine.
Yeah. And is that a post-it in 23?
It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna copy it. I'm gonna move it forward into
All
12.
right.
Awesome.
Cool.
Uh-huh. So Austin, I don't think I've seen you at the meetup. How did you hear about us? Is this your first time?
I this is my first time since like 2020.
Okay.
I've I was at some of the Code Crafter like little I forget there's like a little timer like a
Uh,
minute
yep.
30.
Lean coffee. Lean coffee
Yeah.
that Susie does.
Yeah. I've been to that a couple times. Um Every time I get there everybody's jealous about my giant whiteboard. But
Mhm. Nice.
Yeah. But yeah, I haven't been to too many of these.
Mhm.
I've been trying to get back into. I worked at a startup and it got merged and into a company, and then that was my first time not working a bunch of freelance jobs basically.
Mhm.
So I kind of fell out of this whole meeting people space. But
Right.
it's like,
Well, welcome back. Thanks for dipping your toe
thank
in the
you.
water.
Yeah, thanks for greeting.
So I'm going to go ahead and go back to the main room.
Cool, me too. Yeah.
All right. So hopefully everyone got a chance to share their stories, has chosen the best one of the two. We're now going to basically do a playoff. So we'll take those two stories and we'll put you in rooms. So this time I'm not going to assign the rooms randomly. I'm just going to leave them open so you can join whichever one you want, because I figured now you know which room you're supposed to be in. So if you're in room 1 or 2, you now are in room 1. If you are in room 11 or 12, you are now in room 6. Right? Same process. 4 of you will get together. You'll listen to the two stories. You'll figure out which one you like the best. Right? I'm going to give you the same 6 minutes to do this. And let me open up the breakout rooms again. How many do we need this time?
Sorry, what are we doing now?
So I'm going to open up the breakout rooms.
Yeah.
And you're going to go to the one based on where you are in that chart, right? So if you were in room 11 last time, now you'll be in room 6. And then the 4 of you are going to share the top 2 stories that filtered to here, and you're going to decide which of the 2 you like the best. That's it. We'll do that one more time or 2 more times, and then we'll share the top 4 stories with everybody. I'm going to let you do your own rooms.
What if you can't remember where your room?
Yeah, what was my room?
Good question. Did you not put the sticky note in the mural board?
We didn't get a chance to choose.
You didn't get a chance to choose. Okay. Let me see if I can. Is there an escape from? There is. Okay, good. Who's asking the questions? Who needs to know what the room is? Jacqueline, you were in room 1.
Okay.
Gregor, you were in room. Why am I not seeing you?
And also, someone please share
I don't know
link?
what room you were in, Gregor.
19. Gregor, you're 19.
19.
How did you find the room number?
So it will show me the breakout rooms.
I
Here?
can't see them now.
Yes, but oh, you know what I can do? Maybe it won't show me if I just do this, but it will if I do this. So this goes up to room 10. So if you're in rooms up to room 10, there's where you were. And then let's see if I can
Great
get
idea. Thank you.
this and do that again. And so this is 10 to 17. And so if you're in rooms 10 to 17, this is where you were.
Can you paste it into my row?
Yes, that is the thing I can do. I think. Copy the clipboard. Paste. Thank you. That was a great idea. And then do the same thing. Up to room
It's out there
9.
when you get kicked into the breakout room, it'll have a number in there. Just also pay attention to that number when you show up.
But the next one is not going to be random. You're going to have to select your one by your own. All right. So this is our starting list. All right.
Wait, and then results should be in the column number 2, right? So like our previous ones were.
Yeah, so we are now in column number 2. So if you were
Okay.
in room 5, you are now in room 3.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And the end result of discussion is going to be on room 3's
Yes,
place. Thank you.
exactly. So you'll move one forward. It's just like the playoffs.
Makes sense.
Breakout rooms. Okay, where
Travis, do you have a question still?
Yep. Sorry, what was your question?
Oh, sorry, Travis has his hand up still.
Oh, Travis.
Apologize. I'll put that down. I can't find me yet.
Okay.
Travis.
Is there more than 17 rooms? wonder if I'm-
There was not.
I was
Yeah.
in room 20.
Oh, you were
So-
in room 20?
There
Travis,
must be more
you were in
rooms.
22.
23.
Oh, you're right. Okay, yes, sorry.
There were 32.
I have to open them up manually. That is
Thank you.
good point. Okay, hold on. Let me do all that and then post one more screenshot. Was the last one? I think was probably room 16. That's probably about right. All right. Save the clipboard and paste yet again. Okay. There you are.
I can help.
And then in answer to your question, you were in room 22, Travis. Okay, recreate rooms. Do that and let you choose the room. And again, 6 minutes to choose the best of the top 2 stories. Opening the rooms. Starting the timer.
Logan, I think you're muted.
We remembered our room.
Yeah. Follow instructions.
I don't know. You might move ahead just by default.
I think I do, yeah. When he said that there were like 48 and there were like 23 rooms because he doesn't count or whatever, I'd be like, oh, I'm the odd one out, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and that's actually why I picked this room. It's like, oh, hey, Austin doesn't have anyone, so I'll go into that one.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so hey, we're moving it forward. You get a buy. It's a buy.
It's a buy, yeah. Oh yeah. I'm looking at the one above.
Yeah.
That's a thing. My wife has that where like she does animation.
Yep.
And the machine that I would get her to buy is so much better than the machine that her office provides and like requires her to work on basically.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll probably talk to them in a minute.
So I was at a company where we actually our local builds took 20 to 25 minutes at the time.
Oh wow.
And we said, no, this isn't going to work. Everyone, and everyone had laptops. It was all desktops at the time. We need to get everyone new machines. And so they came through and they gave us the top end machines that they had, which were office machines, right? Or top end office machines, not dev. And we went from say 25 minutes down to 20 minutes per build. And we said, no, this is not going to work. And so we spec'd out at the time, it was like a quad core and 128 gigs RAM, all this stuff. And the vendor came back with, these machines are going to cost you $12,000 a piece. And we were going to use them as pairing stations. So we needed 3 of them per team, and we had 9 teams. So we needed 27 machines. And they're like, that cost is insurmountable. I mean, that's huge amounts. And then we said, if you count 6 developers sitting around if we can get the build under 5 minutes,
Yeah.
you're talking 15 minutes per developer. And we calculated the time frame that we were all sitting around waiting for builds to happen. We said, these machines would be paid off for in productivity time in a month.
Yeah. That's what I was like. That's like a couple weeks. It's just like,
Yeah. And
no
it's
way.
like, oh, really? It's like, here's the math. They're
Yeah.
like, oh, well, then we'll get you those machines. And as soon as they put in an order that big, the cost of the machines went from like $12,000 down to $4,000.
Yeah.
Right.
That's funny.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's, yeah. Well, there a similar experience I had at this healthcare company where everyone used to have, they were all in cubes.
Mhm.
Everyone had their own garbage can, and the cleaning person would come in every night and empty everyone's garbage can. Someone did some cost benefit analysis and said, you know what? If we have one garbage can per 30 cubes, that's going to make it so much easier for that cleaning person to come through and just clean that one garbage can.
Yeah.
Speed up their time. And they did it. They implemented it. And okay, I had a lot of time on my hands while I was at this company. And I actually had a stopwatch and I watched people around as to how much time they spent to and from going to the garbage can.
Yeah.
And everyone spent anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes a day going back and forth to the garbage can.
Yeah.
And then when I tallied that up, it's like, so one of the least paid people in the company, the cleaning person who comes through,
Yeah.
saved, 40 minutes of their time per garbage can, right?
Yeah.
But now it's costing the company in, everyone spends 10 minutes a day going to the garbage can. Everyone,
Hmm.
that's the premature optimization.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's just shared pain.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Maybe if everyone had their own personal trash can that they like emptied out at the end of the day. Yeah, I've had an experience like that where it was just like cleaning your own dishes at so like I'm getting paid, 150 an hour to like wash a dish
Yeah.
at this place, like
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
very strange.
Yeah. All right. Congratulations. You made it through the next round.
Sweet, thank you. All
See you soon. Bye.
right, bye.
All
We
right.
had an interesting question come up in our session. and
Yeah,
we
yeah.
can answer it before we do the next one. What is the criteria for better?
Oh, that's up to you guys. That's totally subjective.
Okay, so like if it's the most entertaining, most funny story ever, we pick that, or
That's totally valid.
story from the most popular person in the room.
Also valid.
Okay.
Your choices.
Sounds good.
I trust in your judgment.
All right.
The promise of sending money to raise your votes, interfering with foreign elections.
All right. I think they're closed. I'm not sure. It says breakout will close in 1 second, but I'm not sure if they actually did. So basically, same rules apply as before. Create. We're down to like the top 6 now. Figure out where your room is, and I'll see you there. I'll give you another 6 minutes. Rooms are open.
I'd like room 6, please.
Yes. Right. If anyone has trouble like getting it there, I can assign you to it. You just have to tell me, where you
Oh,
want to
it's
be.
possible for us to go to a room ourselves without.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But if you can't figure it out on the interface, let me know which room you need to be in, and I will send you there.
Yeah, I have no idea.
You should be able to go into the breakout rooms and then scroll down into the room you want to go into and then click join.
And you'll also see the people you were in the room with last time.
Stan, there are so many cultural assumptions being made here that I just don't get. I think I must have been in a coma for 3 years.
let's see if I can help you, Toby.
No worries, no worries. We can help.
I'm a smart guy.
All right, Toby.
I think I need
this
to
is
be in
Toby
room
Champion.
5.
All right, I will send you there.
Here we go.
Yeah. So
There you are.
I'm reminded of a shared pain story that I had at T-Mobile many years ago. This is around 2010, where our builds were
One of
taking
those stories was from there.
and took what 25 minutes for us to build and run, build and
Yeah.
compile. And we finally got them to finally got the company to agree, yes, we'll upgrade your machines. They gave us the highest end machine they possibly could, which were office running machines, which only lopped off a couple minutes from the build. And we said, no, we need these. And we gave them the specs. It was like quads,
Yeah.
gigs, 128 gigs RAM, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, these machines are going to cost us $16,000 a piece. How can you possibly expect us to get these? Then we showed them the math of if we can get the build time to 5 minutes or less, you will have 6 times 9, 54 developers will now gain 20 minutes a day minimum, and
Yeah.
probably an hour a day of their time. And here's how those machines would be paid for in less than a month in productivity.
Yeah. It's very weird the way that works, where it's like there's this story from like who is the Dustin Hoffman, where like when he was starting as an actor, he had all these jars of money in his kitchen, and they were labeled like groceries and rent and electricity, and he went to his friend and he's like, can I borrow money for food? And he's like, what do you mean you have jars of money in there? And he's like, yeah, but the food jar is empty. Right. And like companies have the same thing where it's like they don't seem to realize that like it's all their money.
Yes.
If it comes from a different bucket, somehow it's like separate money. And really, again, just inefficient things occur because of that.
Well, and
it's
that,
amazing actually how much of software design occurs because of the accounting department.
right. Well, specifically because of OpEx versus
Yeah.
CapEx.
Right. That is a crazy thing.
Yeah.
Like OpEx, like decisions that are made based on that affect like the whole year. And that is just craziness from people who don't even like have no idea what is even being built. Like the accountants don't know it's being built. They don't know how it's being built, but they're like, fill it into these 2 buckets. And then everything else like flows from that. It's craziness.
Well, and that at the primal level for software development is outsourcing versus FTEs.
So there's that. There's also do you refactor?
Yep.
Like, do you clean up code?
Yeah.
Like which bucket is it coming out of?
Right. Yeah. It's asinine.
Yeah. It is craziness.
I mean, but
and this also goes, this goes directly again to shared and split pain, right?
Yeah.
That like the pain that is being solved by CapEx and OpEx is not at all being experienced by how that money is getting spent.
Right.
Like just totally different areas, no feeling between these 2 places.
Right. So I was at another company where the they had cube farms and all the people working in the cubes had their own individual garbage cans.
Yeah.
And one day an optimization happened where there were communal garbage cans, for, 1 garbage can for 20,
so
30.
Yeah.
And that saved the building maintenance budget folks quite a bit of time.
Yeah.
But I was at that engagement. I had a lot of time on my hands, and I sat there with a stopwatch one day and I calculated the amount of time people spend going back and forth. And it was between 2 to 5, sometimes 10 minutes to go to the garbage can for the whole day.
That is a gross misunderstanding because in that 10 minutes, like I'm breaking flow.
Yep.
And the cost of breaking flow is really hard to calculate.
Yep.
And also very easy to, on my way, get distracted onto a different place.
Which is exactly why sometimes it took 10 minutes for them to get back to their desk.
Because you met up with someone, you had, yeah.
Now there's also the unquantifiable, hey, the meeting room, we chatted and we talked about this stuff. And
that also, yeah, it could be a benefit.
But it was wonderful. And I use that as an example of premature optimization, or one budget optimizing, causing the other budget's pain.
All right. Oh, wait, rooms have not closed yet. We should have
Steve,
been
I
down
think that-
6 stories at this point, right? Oh, I'll give another 40 seconds. I think that is good enough. So I think what I want to do next is share the stories from the top stories that bubbled through for each room. All right, so room number 1. Jacqueline, Lotta, Matt, Michael, Moss, Raul, and Tim. You ended up with the story bugs related to security, which was not tested in QA. Whoever's story that is, will you share it with the group?
Okay, this is Rahul, and it's a story from one of my previous jobs. Out there, it was a healthcare company, and security was one of the main areas of focus, being a healthcare stuff. However, security and performance testing, etc., I mean, they were clubbed as non-functional requirements. And the QA people would shy off from the non-functional requirements because they felt that they didn't have the skills to do the non-functional testing. Whereas in particular, authorization was actually a functional feature of the product. I mean, rest of the security aspects were probably not that easy to test out, but authorization was clearly a functional piece. And it was hard to convince everybody to push it into a functional instead of a non-functional piece. And we tried a lot of things, it didn't work. One day, I mean, when the external penetration testing team, which used to get hired to do the testing, the dev and the QA were made to sit with them and show them how they were testing. And the moment they saw that, I mean, the way they were testing, and it didn't require any fancy stuff to be done, I mean, the QA people just were more than happy to pick it up as a part of the functional testing. And henceforth, I mean, they would be happy to find those bugs, and that saved a lot of efforts for us.
And so in this case, like the pain that like the QA is actually experiencing is the learning curve pain, right?
It was
like,
the perceived learning curve.
Fair enough, perceived, but still a curve, right? A lot of times in hindsight, it's not as hard to learn as it is in foresight. Foresight? I'm not sure that's the right word. Yeah, nice. Thank you. That is a great story. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to room number 2. 6 months, 30-person team, feature branching, steering clear of pain. Wait, that's not what I want the breakout rooms. Whose story is that?
This is my story, Cody.
Perfect. Cody, please share.
Yep. So we had a XP team that was had a contract with a client, build a pretty big product. And they, huge list of features they wanted. At some point, they realized they weren't going to get all the features that they wanted in the time span they kind of wanted. So they took out some of the features they wanted, made another giant backlist, or backlog, I should say, and hired an offshores team to start building this.
Yeah.
So again, XP team, we're refactoring all the time. We're doing TDD on the main thing. What the client decided to do was, and to make it so they don't release what the other offshore team was doing, was to make a big feature branch. So branch off of main. The sad part is, again, 3 months in, I do a git pull and I see, a remote branch called steering clear of pain. Oh, what is that? Because we weren't told about the offshore team. And I look at GitHub And there is a lot of very sad, very, I'm very sympathetic, very sad for this person who's been, I find out there's one guy on this team whose sole job was to merge main in every morning and deal with the merge conflicts.
Yeah, I was thinking like branching is a great way to get split pane, and shared pane occurs on merge, right? So like if you think of yourself and future you, right? Current you gets to experience split pane, and future you will get the shared pane.
Yeah.
That is
So
fantastic.
3 months in, and then a happy story. Well, not really. We could have told them that was going to happen when they made this decision. So at that point, 3 months in, we told them, hey, probably shouldn't do that. And then 3 months go by again, and then they finally merge it in. So.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. All right. Next room, cleaning up garbage. Or wait, possibly depending on how the things are, setting up new mobbing stations. This would have been room 3. So we got Kelly, Barbara, Sharon, Peter, David, Aaron, and Paige. Which one of these stories is the winner story, and whose story is it?
I think that this is my story.
Great, Sharon.
And it is setting up the new mobbing station. So we have a bunch of people from the Hunter mob here.
Yes.
And we actually ended up with, I think, 3 of us in the most recent iteration. And we got new mobbing stations, and we were super excited because the old ones were really old and really slow. And then we had to do something that had not been done very frequently, which is set up those machines to have all the right tools and be able to run the various products. And the various products have different conditions.
Yeah.
And so there were about 8 of them, and 4 of them, there was a team that set them all up for the rest of the team that was associated. And the other 4, and that was pretty painful, but at least they had a process, and they were experiencing the pain, and their direct teammates who used the other 3 stations were not experiencing the pain. And then the other stations had to get set up individually, and some of those were super painful. And then an additional station, and I don't think I told this in the story, but an additional station for the initial group of 4 had to be set up. And there were new people on that team, and they looked at the instructions, and they ended up automating a lot of things that had never been automated.
Yeah.
With the result that now if we need another station on that system for that particular product, it will be a lot easier. But multiple people had to experience this pain before it was worth investing in a solution. And I still don't think that will necessarily help the teams that have other setups, although it does give them a starting point.
Yeah, so this is slightly different than just split and shared pane, right? But another aspect of pain that is very useful is from Taichi Ono's statement: if something hurts, do it more often, right? So like if you really want that pain to go away, it's not just everyone experiencing it once, it's everyone experiencing it a lot, right? Because if you have shared pain that's only like a one-off thing, sometimes you're just like, it's done. Like, but if it's coming back tomorrow, yeah. Nice. Thank you for sharing. That was a great story, Sharon. And then we got one last group here. No, we have 2 more groups. My bad. So the next one is estimates go through, or estimates turning into commitments. And from George, you labeled it even better. Great. George, share your story with us.
So in the last 2 companies, I've either been a tech lead or just a member of a pairing team. And in both situations, the direction coming down from the top is basically do Scrum, and Scrum has, converting estimates into commitments. And, there is a whole lot of pressure to get those commitments to be made. And so, you know, given the dynamic between a consulting company and a customer company, you get this situation where, you know, keeping the upper management happy and lying to them is better than you know, forcing them to face reality.
There is such a good clip about this from the TV show. I'm just going to share the clip because that whole thing that you just expressed is summarized so well. Give me 1 second to find the clip.
And I apologize. I have to unfortunately join another meeting in 6 minutes.
No problem. Let me share a screen here with video. I think this might tell your story as well.
And lastly, I have big news. In anticipation of our big release of Nucleus at CES in January, we decided to give the world a sneak preview. Nucleus, in partnership with Dana White and the Ultimate Fighting Championship, will be the exclusive provider of live streaming for next month's Ultimate Fighting Championship event, Melina versus Bulgakov 2. I realize the full platform won't be ready until January, but our Nucleus division assures me they are ready for this challenge. And I can think of no more exciting a way to give a little taste of Nucleus to the entire world than by putting video latency in a rear naked chokehold. Great job, team. All right, back to work.
Did you tell Gavin where we are on the video situation?
He does know that converting the whole platform to middle out has put us at least 6 weeks behind schedule, right?
Well, I'm not going to be the one who tells him we're that far behind. If you want to, feel free.
I just heard you tell Heidi we're 6 weeks behind. But remember that drop frame issue I showed you? We're easily 15 weeks behind.
Well, I'm not going to be the one to tell Heidi about that.
Feel free to tell her yourself.
Did I just hear you say we're only 15 weeks behind? I've been integrating the system natively and...
Dude, I don't even want to know about it.
Yeah. Feel familiar?
Yes.
Llewellyn?
Yes.
Yeah, someone has, Brian has on the message saying that you skipped room 4.
No, I have not skipped room 4. I just have not gotten to you yet. We still have room 4. That is our last room. Let me pull up breakout rooms again. So room 4 is required to go to the office for productivity, but the desk setup is worse than home.
That's not correct.
That is not correct.
No, room 4 is down on the left.
Down on the left.
Yeah.
Bottom left.
Oh, in that case, I did skip room 4. I am sorry. Allow me to re-say. Clean up the garage. Whose story is that?
Oops, that's me.
Hey, Tammy.
The garage in my house has been used for storage and whatnot. I just finished taking stuff to Goodwill after things got so bad that we were having trouble getting around in the garage and getting stuff that we wanted on like a weekly basis and whatnot. And my husband kept complaining. So I made piles of, sorted through stuff and made piles in the family room. And then my husband complained about, all the stuff in the family room.
So in the garage, it was your pain, but in the family room, it is his pain.
Well, it was he raised the pain in the garage. He was complaining. And then finally we ended up yeah, I've managed to get everybody to go through the piles and have made a trip finally to Goodwill, but I still have a curbside pickup to arrange.
Nice. I like that technique too, of just sort of like getting it out in the open.
Well, there wasn't room to do the sorting inside the garage.
Nice.
But so I wanted to add something because I think there is another interesting aspect of the story, and that is that originally there were multiple people feeling the pain, but they weren't feeling it at once. Because
Yeah.
everyone just felt the pain of having to go into the garage and finding something when they were trying to find something. But these are almost like individuals that are in separate realities because they are in separate times.
Yeah.
And what happens is by bringing everything out in the open, it also makes it sure that suddenly everyone feels the pain at once.
Yeah, that is an excellent point, right? It's not just everyone feeling the pain, it's everyone feeling the pain together at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so now room 6. Required to go to the office for productivity. Whose story is that?
Sure. This is Jay's story. Hi.
Hey, Jay.
So this is a recent story. You might recognize some of the elements about a company that said everybody has to come into the office at least a couple days at a time to improve productivity. And I've got my home set up, dialed in pretty well, lots of screen and keyboard, everything's pretty nice. I get into the office, the way that it works there is you bring in your laptop, you pick a desk for the day, you plug in, you work there, then you leave. And even though those desks have 2 monitors on them, I can only plug one of the monitors into my laptop at a time. So that's already a loss. There is a way to get both of them to plug in. You can daisy chain them with DisplayPort out from one and into the other. And then I could plug in just one cable into my laptop and use both screens. But to do that, you need a cable. You need the right kind of DisplayPort cable to go between the 2 monitors, and that's not there. I figured that cable's like $10. And I asked, like, hey, if you want us to come into the office for productivity, can you put this cable on each desk? And I've gotten no traction with that at all. So there's this conflict between the statement that we want you to come in for productivity and, oh, the setup there isn't very good, and we're not even willing to put a little effort into making it better.
Yeah, most likely what they mean is I'm feeling the pain of not being able to see what you're doing, as opposed to actual productivity.
Yeah. So I see multiple ways split here in the pain, because there's my experience sitting at the desk trying to work. I assume that the real estate people are worried about occupancy, that that's their pain. And then there's an IT department that would actually be the people who would buy and install cables, who are neither me or the real estate. There might be split in more directions as well.
That's an excellent point. Thank you. All right. That is all I've got for you today. So, any questions? Thank you.
Moss has one.
I actually have one question because I was thinking about one, and that has to do with I kind of don't feel exactly what's the answer to the situation where the top management and like ICs don't have shared pain, because you did show that video, which was very relatable, by the way. Like every single company I've been working at had this situation. But how do I make this a shared pain?
So, okay, so there's a couple different aspects to this question, right? One is like, how do you make shared pain when you're at the bottom of the system? That is a harder thing to do. Like again, I come into places usually as a coach, and I get a fair amount of privilege to change the system at the very least while I'm there, right? And so that definitely makes things much easier for me. And very often, like, I get a lot of things for free because of shared pain, right? So I just get the two people at the same computer, and then get this second part for free. If you are a manager, then you have a lot more things. In the early days of HP, there was a whole philosophy called management by walking around. And the idea is like you would walk around the factory floor, and just stuff would start to get better. And a lot of times the reason it got better was the same reason in that second story, where like when the manager came and sat down and saw the build times, he's like, oh, well, this is messed up. Let's fix it. Right. And so by walking around and being there, you got a chance to sort of like get a little bit of shared pain of all the people that you're managing. Right. That happens less and less nowadays. Right. If you go to big companies and you talk to most managers, and I would highly suggest you do this, and say, what is the thing that will get you promoted? The answer is almost always hanging out with the people who are above me. Right. You think the answer would be like managing my team well is what's going to get me promoted. Right. But that is almost never the answer. Right. Which is a really awkward position to be in, when it's like, there's really nothing you can do that will get your manager promoted. Right. He's going to get, or she's going to get promoted because they are hanging out with people who are above them in the section. So there's a lot of managing up, because the people who don't do that end up, not getting promoted, or worse, getting laid off. Right. It's surprising how many times I've seen some of the better people in management get laid off during a layoff. Right. Because they were not the ones rubbing shoulders with higher up people who made the decision. Right. Not because they weren't doing their job well. In fact, they usually are doing their job really well. Sometimes that's why they're not rubbing shoulders with upper management, is because they're not the ones coming there with problems all the time.
But what's interesting, what you're saying here is that you're talking about how, as a manager, like
right
up in the chain, I can change
the question is,
things.
how do you do this lower down?
And I just want, before we can go to that, how can an IC make managers feel the pain?
Yeah.
But just one note here is that how badly our current setup is set up for this. Like our current system,
So
in
bad.
which you have investors who pressure the board that pressures the C levels, and then the C levels pressuring all the way down to IC level, and the investor is definitely not going to walk around in the office, right? So
I mean, okay, so like notably, Chris Skipta, who is a heavy investor in Twitter, did. Right? He was like, holy crap, I've invested almost all my money in this company. Let me go see what's going on and how I can help. But you're right. In general, that is not the way it works. And I don't have great answers on how to do it when you don't have the privilege of doing it. But again, like as I said in the very beginning, right now, I think a lot of you are experiencing the problems of split pain. But I also believe that most of you will be in positions higher up in a few years. And that's when I want you to remember this talk. When you are in a position where you are the one crafting the system. Right? Remember this and look out for, have I split who feels the pain and who can solve the pain? Because the moment that happens, like, that's a big smell.
Okay.
But you're right. Like, I wish I had an answer to your question of like, when you're at the bottom of the food chain, like, how do you change the system? And I don't have a good answer for that.
Yeah, to be fair, I gotta say I was very lucky. Once I was managing a team, and I had the situation where the team was feeling pain, and no, actually, it was another team that was feeling pain, and my team before I even suggested, my team suggested that in that case, we need to clear that pain. And I love
That's
working with
excellent.
people like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that is very fortunate. And that is a great answer.
Sorry, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Any other questions?
I had a question / comment, I guess.
Mhm.
So once you like, so you have the split pain, and then you are able to share the pain. Is it ever appropriate to go back to splitting the pain? And what I keep thinking of is I've read these articles and these studies about when you eat together with people, like you
Yeah.
have 6 people and sharing the cost of the meal. And there's a pain associated with paying. And that pain is worse when something's free and you have to pay for it. But if you're already paying $5 and the price goes up to 10, the pain only increases a small amount. So the idea is over, like if you meet every week, 1 week, one person pays, and then the next week someone else pays. So then that person is taking on the pain, but it's only a little bit more because you're paying for everybody. And then the next 5 weeks, you don't have any pain. So once you realize you have the pain and you're sharing it, then at some point, is it appropriate to go back to splitting it if you can find equity?
So one of the things also to key into here is I don't want pain in a abstract form, right? So like definitely for some people, like paying the bill every week is going to be painful. There's a lot of other people who are like, here's my credit card, right? Like it's not that it's not cost, but it's not quite the same as pain, right? So I just want to like effort and cost is not the same as something that is actively like pain is very discomfortable to feel. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so like if you're just splitting cost, I don't have a problem with that. If you're splitting pain, that's a different thing. Right. So like if the person who's paying for everyone's meal this week is not eating later that day because they're out of money, that's a very different thing than, okay, you gave the credit card this week and I gave it next week. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like the bigger part there is just make sure it's actual pain, not just effort and cost. Right.
So,
It's sometimes easier it's much easier to confuse those things when it's somebody else, I think, than when it's you. Like you know the things that hurt you.
right. So one of the things that I don't think about it as a pain. I think about what does that other person care about? What does that other person, what impacts that other person? Are they thinking about finances? Are they thinking about it in defects? Are they thinking in downtime? Are they thinking what would make this important to them?
Seinfeld had a quote, which is like, pain is your body's way of getting information to you the quickest. Right? Like when you stub your toe, all other information stops. And it's like, this is the thing you need to focus on right now.
Right.
Yeah.
But this also surfaces as earlier in the cycle as requirements, like the conflict between security and development performance.
Yeah.
Each segmented team has different requirements, and if you pool and surface them, you can come up with a better solution.
And also that's also very similar to like the release team, right? Where it's like security would also be happy if you never did anything. There's a great line in Gene Kim's book, what is it? Phoenix Project, where he's like, where the guy is talking to the security and he's like, the thing you don't understand is your wins are when dev has to do less, right? Your job isn't to make dev do more, it's to make them allow them to do less. Yeah.
I had a question that's maybe related to the garage example, where some and maybe this is more related to people who've been keeping up like really old languages, like really old like a COBOL set or something, like a program or something like that. where so the people have developed a very high tolerance to the pain.
Yes.
And really exposing that to anybody else is shocking and like doesn't actually work well. So
Right.
like
So there's two parts about that pain.
yeah.
Right. One is like, yeah, maybe they've developed a high tolerance to that pain. The other thing is they might have developed pride that they have endured the pain. Right. So I like Microsoft being a place where this would show up a lot. Microsoft has an amazing amount of three-letter acronyms for their products, right? And so when you go there, like there's this huge learning curve in the beginning of like, can I just figure out what people are talking about when they say these words? And there's this idea of like, oh, like I understand the lingo, like I've accomplished something, right? Rather than just being like, it doesn't need to be this hard on the new people. Hazing at like fraternities is a similar thing, right? Like I went through it and now it's your turn. Please don't do
Do you
that.
know any ways to like integrate that, I guess? Like is there can you get over it or
So again, as we work together, that tends to show up a bit. So the thing about these systems is it's usually impossible to know all of them, right? And so when we're working, again, a lot of shared pain I get for free because of mob programming, but when we're working in the mob, usually what will happen is like we'll be working in like, Peter's thing, and then Kelly will be like, I don't know what this is. But then the next day we're working in Kelly's thing, and Mike is like, I don't know what this is. And then the next day, and then all of a sudden, like at the end of the week, everyone's like, oh yeah, all of us have these areas that we don't know, and it's okay to help each other out. Right. So there's this part of, again, just all of us experiencing, yeah, we don't know everything. Right. And that allows for some of this facade to come down and everyone to help everyone out. I get a lot of this for free.
I'm going to do a timeout here so I can wrap up the recording. We will continue the Q&A. But people are starting to roll out, and I just wanted to thank everyone for showing up. And Llewellyn, thank you so very much for this wonderful topic. We will certainly talk more about this. I encourage folks to join in. We talk fourth Thursday of every month, except for November, December, we do the third Thursday. Next month, Llewellyn and Lotta will be back talking about testing better for approvals, sorry. Should be another good talk. And I'm guessing interactive talk, Llewellyn?
This one is going to be more coding and telling a story.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Cool. I also want to give a plug right here. Agile Open Northwest. Paige put a link earlier on. It is number one, Llewellyn, Paige, number of folks here swear on it. It's the best thing. It's super high value. Conference. I think it's $350 for 3 days. That includes breakfast and lunch. It's down in Portland this year.
It's also one of the few conferences I actually pay to go to. Like, it's a great conference.
It's also one of the few conferences that are actually worth the money to pay to go to.
Also true. Yeah.
Yep. And so a core group here have been bringing it back and making it a valuable thing for technical and coders to attend. For a little while, it got a lot of process questions. We're taking it back. We're making it our own. We write code in the evenings at Agile Open Northwest. It's awesome. It is awesome. So with that, I think I covered all those points. And yeah, I'm going to stop the recording, but I'm not going to sign it out.